And welcome to this week's edition of the Life and Legacy Show, sponsored by the Sechler Law Firm. My name is Tim Sechler. I am your host for the show. I am a certified elder law attorney, helping families plan for issues like what happens when I pass away, traditional estate planning issues, caring for long-term care, providing long-term care rather for seniors, and doing nursing home asset protection work. We are serving the greater Pittsburgh, Western Pennsylvania region. Office is headquartered out of the Mars-Cranberry area. And if this is your first time checking out the podcast, if you're listening to it as a podcast, or if you're checking us out on the radio this morning, then welcome. I think you'll find this show to be educational and informative. If you want, you can go back and listen to all the old episodes. You can find them on Apple, iTunes, or Spotify. If that's where you get your podcast, you can find a link to those at my website, sechlerlawfirm.com, where you can find the old content. What we do with this show is we provide some education, some entertainment, some things I think you need to be thinking about considering what I do for a living. And in my law firm, we really see a couple of different types of cases. We see people that are planning for young kids. We do wills and trusts for those types of folks. We do planning for retirees and seniors. Often on this show, we provide educational material on how to prepare yourself for what would happen if you get sick down the road, using things like trust to protect assets. Today, what we're going to be talking about is a bit about how we help families where there is already a nursing home admission or there's one on the horizon, and we're concerned about perhaps protecting the money for mom, protecting the house for the kids, whatever the case is. Because see, if you end up sick and in need of nursing home care in this state, it's over $11,000 a month to get a nursing home. So there's not a lot of families that can spend $130,000 of extra assets on a nursing home. And oftentimes when a thing like a nursing home admission or the onset of the need for long-term care, perhaps in the home or community setting, whenever that happens, families start looking for ways to protect their savings, protect their house. And that's a significant part of what we do at our law firm is help families in that situation. And what we're going to be chatting about today is this 5-year look-back period that everybody wants to talk about, right? So everybody kind of knows something about it. It's kind of like everybody knows something about how the Pirates could win if they would just do this, that, or the other thing. But nobody really knows how to help the Pirates win. It sometimes seems like a lost cause, but I digress. The idea here is let's clear up some of the confusion in the interest of at least having you have some good information. Now, before we get into all of the different things that you could consider with regard to asset protection and saving your house, I got to give you the little warning that I do most weeks, is that you should not make legal and financial decisions based on what you hear on this or any other radio show. This show is for your information and education. Every factual situation has its own factual opportunities, and you need to chat with a lawyer if you are concerned about these things. But and of course, we're here to help at any point in time. Another thing you can do is you can go to my website at sechlerlawfirm.com, and if you go to the workshops tab, I have a free pre-recorded webinar on Medicaid and asset protection planning that you can check out. The other thing you can find there is our new and improved Medicaid guide, which gives you some information on how Medicaid really works when it comes to the nursing home. So why do I keep talking about Medicaid? If you're not initiated to how this whole thing works, if somebody ends up going to a nursing home and needs long-term care, and they let's make up a story. Let's say a guy has had a stroke, okay, and he was healthy one day and he's not today, right? Goes to the hospital, has let's say a hospital stay of 4 or 5 days. He's in there for a little while. And he's over 65. So what happens if that fella needs to go from the hospital to a nursing home for some care, rehab or long-term, what's going to happen is Medicare, assuming if he's over 65, he's on Medicare, Medicare is going to pay for a short-term rehab stay. So they'll help for a while, 20 days, maybe up to 100 days, depending on how it's going, after which this gentleman's need to become a private pay resident of a nursing home. Let's assume in our fact pattern here where this gentleman cannot go home. He's going to need ongoing care in a residential setting in a skilled nursing facility. So what happens when those Medicare days run out is he starts paying privately at $350 a day. And essentially the way that these rules work in our country, which I think is terrible, but the way the rules work is he's going to essentially have to go broke paying for his nursing home care. And we're doing that to this gentleman because he had the audacity to have a stroke rather than some other healthcare issue that might require surgery or medication. See, surgery or medication, Medicare will pay for. That's acute care. But Medicare does not pay for custodial long-term care, which commonly occurs with things like stroke or Parkinson's disease or dementia or Alzheimer's. And if you take this and you realize, holy cow, if I have a stroke or if I have Alzheimer's disease, I'm going to be on my own at $11,000 a month, then, let alone the fact that these ailments can be terrible. But we work hard to accumulate some retirement savings, right? And the problem is we work hard to accumulate some stuff, but depending on what our healthcare event ultimately is, you stand to go broke because of the way the government rulebook works. Right? People that have acute care issues, surgery, most medications. Let's say the gentleman had a heart attack instead of a stroke, where he has to have open heart surgery and a pacemaker and all of that. Well, Medicare does the heavy lifting on that. That's acute care. But we didn't have a heart attack. We had a stroke, which could have been caused by the same kind of issues. But if he has a stroke, now he needs long-term custodial care. It could be the same $500,000 price tag that the open heart surgery cost. But instead of Medicare covering it, now he's on his own out of pocket. And so I don't know why. I don't know at what point in time. I don't think this is one of those things where like there was a room full of smart people where it came to a decision that said, well, let's make sure that the person has a heart attack is financially secure, but let's make sure that the person has a stroke goes broke. I don't know that conversation ever took place, but at some point in time there was some determination that, look, Medicare is not going to pay for the nursing home. And the net effect is people that have strokes or Alzheimer's disease end up losing. And so people don't like losing. People don't want to work their whole life to go broke. And so a lot of people don't know like the real rules of how this nursing home system works and what am I allowed to keep and what am I not allowed to keep. Believe me, it takes a long time to learn the intricacies of these rules. I'm still learning the intricacies of these rules. But people generally kind of know about this 5-year look-back period thing because, see, if I gotta be broke, then the thought process is, well, maybe I ought to just give everything to my kids. If I just give everything to my kids, then I'm broke. So I can become eligible for Medicaid to pay for the nursing home when I need it. But see, Medicaid doesn't want you doing that. Medicaid doesn't want you giving away your assets on a Tuesday and then asking them to help you pay for care on Thursday. And they don't want you doing it those 2 days before. They don't want you doing it 2 years before. They don't want you doing it 5 years before you need the nursing home. That's where this whole 5-year look-back period thing came from. It used to be 3 years long ago. Now it's 5 years. If you need to apply for Medicaid benefits, they ask you about your assets and your income to determine if you're eligible or not, and you essentially have to go broke before you're eligible. So then on the application, it also asks, have you given anything away in the last 5 years? And if the answer to that is yes, well, now you got a problem because Medicaid is not interested in paying for you for your nursing home care if you gave away your money to your grandkid. And so there's this 5-year essentially reporting period. Now, if you have made transfers in those 5 years, then there's a secondary analysis on whether it was exempt or whether it's going to be penalized. See, sometimes my clients are confused. They think they can't do anything within the last 5 years. There's lots of things you can do. You know, people, I've heard my clients say, well, I can't sell my house because I might need the nursing home in the next couple of years. Selling your house isn't a problem because if you sell your house, you still have now cash assets from the sale of that house and Medicaid can get that. So they don't care that you sold your house as long as you sold it for fair value. Now, if you sell it to your kid for $1, you know, people use that language, I'm going to sell it for $1. That's not a sale, folks. That is a gift. The only reason we're saying is there's $1 is because we couldn't record a deed otherwise. Right? So if I have a $200,000 home and I sell it to my grandchild for $200,000, there's no problem here because there's still $200,000 of cash now in my name that the state can take. So they don't have a problem with that one. They do have a problem if you sell the $200,000 house for $1. That's a transfer for less than fair market value, and they're going to ding you on it. Okay, so what does ding you on it mean? Well, if there's a transfer in the last 5 years, what happens is when Medicaid finds out about it, which you're going to tell them about it because they get 5 years of bank statements anyhow, and though sometimes I think you can make the argument the food is better, I think that what we really want is nursing home care for the rest of our lives, not jail time for the rest of our lives. Because if you don't disclose the gift in the last 5 years, well, you have just committed Medicaid fraud. So yes, you have to explain the gifts. And what happens is, let's just say that we gave away $100,000. Okay, if you give away $100,000 to your nephew, and then need to go to the nursing home in the next 5 years, what Medicaid does is they take the value of the gift, in this example, $100,000, and they divide it by the average monthly cost of a nursing home, which is now a little over $11,000 so per month. So if we would divide $100,000 gift by $11,000 monthly cost of care, the answer is about 9 months. For the next 9 months, Medicaid is not going to pay for your nursing home bill, which results in all kind of bad things, because now the nursing home, it's really difficult for them to discharge somebody in that situation. They have to find a safe place for you to go, and they have to have a discharge plan, and other facilities won't take you because they know you're not paying, and a lot of, and sort of it's difficult for them to discharge you. So what happens? The nursing home's in a tough spot. They continue to provide care with no understanding of how they're going to be paid for that care. And so they may be incurring costs of $8,000 or $9,000 or $10,000 a month to provide care with no known source of payment. And this is where ugly things happen, like they can sue your kids, and they can come after different types of assets. They can put liens on homes after a lawsuit. They can do different things that we would prefer to avoid. And so this transfer within the last 5 year thing is pretty risky. When I talk families out of giving assets to their kids, because if you give assets to your kids, I don't know where the money's going to be for the next 5 years. If you had to get it back, I don't know how you're going to get it back, because even if your kids mean well, then your kid could go through a divorce in the next 5 years. Your kids could die before you in the next 5 years, and all kind of bad things could happen where we don't know if we're going to get that money back. And so that's pretty risky stuff. So when people want to pre-plan, if people want to put plans in place they're healthy, they know about the 5 year thing, and they want to transfer some assets to get things started, we typically are going to use a trust, because it can be used to isolate your money from your kids' potential issues like a divorce or a lawsuit. So trusts are a good tool to do long-term care planning ahead. All right, so let's talk about a couple of other things that occur within this 5 year look-back period. There are some exceptions to this, okay? So one, they don't penalize transfers between spouses. So sometimes it makes some sense to move assets from one spouse to the other spouse's name. My clients come into the office believing I can't do it because of the 5 year look-back period thing, but Medicaid doesn't hurt you for having transfers between assets, okay? So let's not make an assumption every transfer is bad. There's also exceptions for transferring assets to disabled kids or other disabled people in certain circumstances. So if you have a kid who's on Social Security disability benefits, there may be an opportunity to transfer assets to that disabled child. Now, we need to make sure that, it's consistent with the estate planning objective, especially if we're dealing with the kid as a power of attorney, and we don't know, we can't ask dad if he thinks that this transfer to the disabled person is appropriate because he's had the stroke or the dementia. So all of these things, like I said at the top of this little segment here, all of these factual circumstances can't be ignored. Each family situation is a little bit different, and unfortunately, you need a lawyer to help you figure this stuff out. You need to work with somebody who is experienced in elder law, which is what my law firm does. What we do, the way that we operate with these cases, just so you know, is we typically will offer you a free consultation if you have someone in a nursing home, where we analyze the assets and we try to figure out, is this a family we can help? Can we do anything to protect dollars, houses from these long-term care expenses? And if the answer is yes, we'll let you know. If the answer is no, then we'll make a referral to other services. But we use our well over a decade of experience now in handling nursing home cases and apply those experiences to your factual situation to see if we can help. So if you got somebody in a nursing home, especially a skilled nursing facility, if you are paying privately, give us a call. The consultation is free, and we may very well be able to help you save some real dollars if the facts work out. So give us a call if you're in this situation. Another good first step is go to SechlerLawFirm.com, SECHLER lawfirm.com. And there you can find a couple of things. One, you can find our free downloadable Medicaid guide that lays out the general rules around Medicaid eligibility. The second thing you can do is you can watch a Medicaid webinar that will explain to you some of the more intricate rules, and just use it from an educational standpoint. Okay, so getting back into this, exempt transfers. We can do exempt transfers to disabled kids, minor kids, but that's rare to have somebody in a nursing home that has minor children. It happens on occasion. There's also a thing called a caregiver exception. So if, and this is with regard to a transfer of the house, if the facts line up, again, I have to caveat all this stuff because I'm always concerned somebody's going to go out and make a mistake trying to do this stuff on their own. But if the facts line up, which we can help you figure out, it's possible to transfer a house to a child of the person in the nursing home if that child has been helping for a couple of years to provide care to the now nursing home resident, mom. If they've been doing that for a couple of years, we may be able to transfer them the house and protect the house without losing it to the nursing home. So that's what we call the caregiver child exception to the 5-year look-back period. And it can be a nice tool to help protect mom and dad's home. Also in Pennsylvania, they don't penalize transfers for less than $500 total per month. And that's a Pennsylvania rule that they could change at any time. I can tell you that does not exist in any other state. And my experience has been when there's a rule that exists here that does not exist in any other state, and Pennsylvania could get more strict about it. Budgets being what they are, I'm not sure how long that one's going to last, but you can do it right now. I'm not saying you should do it. Hear me. I'm not saying you should do it. I'm just saying you can do it, and if it makes sense. Okay, and then if it's not exempt, and there's a couple other smaller ones, but if it's not exempt, then it's a penalized transfer. Now, here's the thing. I don't want you to be terrified if you've made transfers in the past. Let's say you're in a family where, on occasion, I've had families say things to me like this. Dad could use the nursing home, but we gifted the house 3 years ago, and we know we got a problem. All right, here's what I would tell you. My analysis in working through these cases always begins with what is in the right interest of the senior who needs care. All right. First, we got to line up the right care for the person. Then we figure out the finances, and sometimes those things are related. But I want you to hear me. Please don't make the wrong healthcare decision for your senior based on financial concerns that you only have half the facts on to begin with. Maybe there's an exception, maybe there's something that we can work out. Even in a situation where there's been prior gifts, if somebody needs a nursing home, there are strategies where we can fix it. Right? So, but you gotta have a pro to analyze your situation. This is not kitchen table planning. Home Depot advertises do-it-yourself projects. Elder law attorneys don't, because it's difficult. And if you've got some of these issues, you need some help, check us out. The education materials I just mentioned are a good place to start, but the free consult's a better way to get the ball rolling. And sometimes what we do in this situation, if there's been some gifts and there's still some money left, but let's say dad gave away the house and there's still some cash left. Sometimes we can use that cash to get us through the penalty period by buying an annuity or doing a promissory note or some other thing. And so if I can work to fix pre-existing gifts by using the remaining funds to fix the problem, and this is complicated. It's super hard to explain on the radio. I'm sorry. I'd do better if I had a whiteboard and you could see me. But there are ways, even if you haven't done the pre-existing gifts, to where it might make sense to do the gifts intentionally in violation of the 5-year look-back period, because we know how to solve the problem. And on occasion, what we'll recommend to people is, let's do some gifts. We're going to tell Medicaid. We're not hiding anything from Medicaid. We're just going to tell Medicaid, hey, we gave away the house. you're going to impose a penalty period, and here's the length of the penalty period. We can do the math the same way they can do the math. But then we use the other dollars to solve the problem. And what can result in doing this is, on occasion, and lawyers don't promise results, right? But on occasion, it's possible to save 50-60% of the net worth even after somebody's in a nursing home. And if you are married, the numbers can get even better. And so don't freeze if you've got someone in a nursing home. See, when family members put dad in the nursing home, oftentimes they're hesitant to reach out for help. And I think it's because sometimes, there was hesitation to go to the nursing home. There's some sense of guilt that dad's in a nursing home. And there's this other sense of we just want to keep things private. But if you don't do any of that, and you start writing these checks for $9,000, $10,000, $11,000 a month, there's no end in sight unless you get some help. And if any other would-be financial creditor were coming after you for $11,000 a month for the rest of your life, you'd probably ask, is there anything I can do to lessen this bill? And it should be the same with the nursing home. We want our loved ones to get the care they need, but if I can get my dad the care that he needs and not go broke in the process so that my mom has a home to live in, well, that to me seems to be some pretty savvy planning. So don't freeze just because you don't like the fact that we had to do this. Don't freeze because of the 5-year look-back period. Don't freeze because of what you read on the internet. And don't freeze because what the nursing home billing office tells you. There are still some things you can do even after someone is in a nursing home. You just need us to take a look at it and make sure that everything lines up. So again, SechlerLawFirm.com, SECHLER lawfirm.com. You can find resources there like old podcasts. You can find some articles that I've written over the years, but the two that are sort of on point with this nursing home asset protection stuff is the downloadable Medicaid guide that you can find on the website, and also the Advanced Medicaid Workshop, which is a pre-recorded video of me explaining some of the rules, and you can find that on the website as well. Okay, so that's the 5-year look-back period. That's some of the meaningful exemptions and a little bit on what we do in that situation to protect people. There's another thing that you can do that I think makes some sense to protect your family from the perils of you getting sick and perhaps losing your memory or perhaps passing away, is let them know how to take care of themselves. See, my grandfather, my father-in-law, my lovely wife's father, passed away a little over a decade ago, and he knew he was terminal. He had cancer, and we knew, and he knew that we were going to lose him. And during his final months, he took the time to do a little book that was called Upon My Demise. It was a little notebook. He didn't tell anybody he was doing it. But in there, he was writing things down that are not really traditional estate planning. It wasn't who gets the money. It was how to winterize the house. And it was, what's the handyman's phone number? And it was, what's the plumber phone number? And who was the lawyer? And who was the accountant? And work with this person for a couple of years, but it'll get less complicated, and then you can work with this person, and it was all of these helpful things for the things that he was responsible for in their household, and he put it into this notebook, and it was such a loving gesture to his wife and to his kids. And he was a thoughtful guy and took the time to do that, but he also was in a situation that sort of made him think to do it, right? He knew he had a terminal diagnosis. Most of us may never have the time. We could die of a heart attack. We could die in a car accident. So I encourage you to put the same level of thought that he did into this and plan for things that may be out of your control. And there's an easy way to do it. My wife, after having gone through this experience of losing her dad and finding this notebook, wrote a book, and it's a self-help guide to help you do it. It's called How to Change the Light Bulbs When You're Gone, and it's called that because her father used to joke that everybody was going to live in the dark when he passed away because nobody knew how to change a light bulb, right? So in a nod to him, she named the book How to Change the Light Bulbs When I'm Gone, and you can find it on Amazon, or you can find it on her website, which is securingmemories.com, which is all dedicated to preserving the family stories and memories. And I encourage you to check it out. Yes, because she's my wife, but also because it's a fantastic set of resources, and you need to check it out. So it's called securingmemories.com. In closing, I want to thank you for listening to the episode. I think it's been helpful. Remember to not make any legal and technical decisions based on what you heard on this or any other radio show. Each unique factual situation needs its own factual solution, and you should have yours checked out by us or someone who knows the stuff that we know. And you can find out more information at SechlerLawFirm.com, SECHLER lawfirm.com. Thanks for listening to this week's show. We'll check you out here next week.